Oh, guys, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Mind Renovation Nation. I am your host, Nathan Bush, and I am excited about our show today on small multifamily mastery. We are going to be talking today about the money mindset, We are going to talk about how we plug into wealth. And if you're the type of person where you want to learn about, maybe you're interested in understanding maybe how to build wealth or how to make money or how to do the right things with your money, and you plug into this show, at least when it comes to real estate, I can give you some warnings and some things to guard yourself against. I call them the 35 red flags that you probably should know before you invest in small multifamily real estate, any real estate for that matter, or really invest in anything. Knowing the red flags, knowing the cautions, knowing the reasons why things can be challenging or cause you hiccups can actually be a benefit for you in the long term. So if you're joining me on replay or if you're here, go ahead and type in the comments that you're here. That way we know that you were here. We know who's following the show. We know kind of what your interests are. You can share in the comments. You can ask questions during these live casts, and I'm happy to jump in and answer questions with you guys. But let's jump into it today. I've got a good show and a lot of information to share with you. All right, so plugging into wealth. Let's talk about it. The money mindset, plugging into wealth. All right, a number of years ago, I had a rental property that I was responsible for, and this rental property, we had a tornado that had come through, and for whatever reason, it had knocked the electric meter off of the property, ripped it clear from the property. And so whenever I got there, I saw that and noticed that and contacted the electric company so they could come back and get the electric meter reestablished. In the meantime, I went through the property and I was analyzing the different rooms of the property, trying to understand what was going on inside the property so I could get rent ready. But it's kind of hard to do when you don't have the electric on. And I was going from room to room, and I knew the electric meter had been ripped off. I mean, it was detached from the power. However, I kept flipping on the light switch. And kept flipping on the light switch. And I don't know why. Every single time I entered the room, I tried flipping on the light switch, and just my own self, I realized I wasn't plugged into the power source. I wasn't plugged into the power source. And so if you're going to learn anything about wealth, about money, about growing yourself, I think it's imperative and important that you plug into the right power source of wealth. And I could say it kind of like this. I know that in our culture, where your money lies, that's where your heart is. And we can, in our culture, begin to see what makes up a person by what they spend their money on. You have a mind, that's your general brain, and that's your conscious mind. Sigmund Freud said we had a conscious and a subconscious mind. And so today we're going to talk about the mind into the subconscious mind, or your heart. That's another way of saying the same thing, our mind and our heart, or our subconscious mind. So we got to plug into the right power source if we're going to begin to build wealth. And if you're watching on replay, if you're watching live right now, go ahead and type in the chat. What are some of your concerns? What are some of your thoughts whenever it comes to building wealth? What are some challenges that you've had in building wealth? And let's see if we can address some of those things today. Let's see if we can address some of the challenges that come along with building wealth. So Forrest Gump said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And that's true. Maybe you're in a similar situation to Forrest Gump in your mind, and you're like, you know what? It's a random series of acts and things just happen, and you never know what you're going to deal with. I would challenge you to hold that thought for a second, set and suspend that, set it aside, and start to plug into this concept of the money mindset, that we do have a mind, a brain, a conscious thought, and then a subconscious thought, an auto programming that happens over and over again. Again, we talked about where your heart is, that's also where your money is. Think about your bills for a second. Think about your your ongoing reoccurring expenses, aren't those some of the things that you kind of value in life? Think about the cable shows that you pay for, or maybe electric bill or the water bill. These are all things that you value, or you wouldn't put your money into these things. And so we got to be plugged into the right power source so that power source can be the inspiration, the motivation to achieve these higher levels of thought that create these reoccurring subconscious programmings so that we can put our money on a regular basis into the things that we know generate long-term wealth. All right. Do you have a money mindset? If you're here and you're watching live or you're watching on replay, go ahead and type in the chat today the answer to this question. Do you have a money mindset? Do you have a money mindset? Do you have a money mindset? One word. Do you have a money mindset? I threw that out here into the chat so you can see it with me. Do you have a money mindset? I see Travis online here. Hey, Travis, I appreciate you joining us today. He says, God first and family second. Yes, plugging into that right power source might be plugging into God for you. For those of us that are more secular on the show, that's not maybe as biblically found, I challenge you to go find wealth in the Bible. Do your own research, do your own study, and see if plugging into God might be right for you. How about any of the other ones? Anybody else out there? Do you have a money mindset? Do you have a money mindset? I know that some of the things that have come up over time about money, at least I've heard people say to me, is I'm not good with numbers. I'm not good with numbers. And for a long time, I could have said the same thing. I'm not very good with numbers. And so, how do you have a money mindset if you're not good with numbers? And I would tell you, if you're not good with numbers, you're exactly who I'm talking to today. You don't have to be great with numbers to understand a money mindset. And so if you're watching today and you're trying to pay attention through the entire show and understand what is Nathan talking about with his money mindset, just know that you don't have to be good with math. You don't have to be good with numbers in order to get this right money mindset. In fact, there are a lot of people who aren't good with numbers that hire people who are good with numbers to help them build wealth and build substantial resources so that they can do great inside this world. Maybe this is you here. I don't have time to manage my finances. Okay, so if I had an excuse that I used almost all the time for every situation, it's this one. I don't have time. I don't have time. And I would tell you that the reason I use this excuse is because I consider myself extremely busy, extremely productive, extremely hardworking. And I hope you do too. I hope that you're the type of person that you have to figure out how to manage yourself in such a way that your finances can become a focus and a part of your life. And I hope that you can start with getting your mindset right. If you're taking the time to do this today, that's good for you. And I appreciate that, that you're watching the show. You're watching either live or on replay. I do appreciate the fact that you're taking the time to get your mindset right. So if you're taking the time to get your mindset right, you're also taking the time to get your finances right. Because when your mind is right, your conscious thinking is right, then it can begin to program the subconscious so you start doing the repetitive habits that it takes in order to be successful with your finances and to get this whole concept of the money mindset. All right. So maybe you're not good with numbers, maybe you don't have the time, or maybe this is your thought process right now. Maybe this is where you're at. You're at the whole concept of money's not everything. Money's not everything. And to that, I would say you're right. You're right. However, money does show what you value. It does show what you value. And so if you're saying it's not everything, however, there are things that you value that you can't invest your money in because your mind is limited, now we've got a challenge. Now we've got a challenge. Travis online has this to say. He has to say this: a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. I love that quote, Travis. And I appreciate you bringing that to everybody's attention, because money is not everything. But we do have to control this thing we call money. We do have to have dominion over this thing, dominance over this thing we call money, because it does tell us where our heart lays. What do you value? What's important to you? If you value your family, then do you put your money into your family? If you value God, do you put your money into God? If you value people, do you invest in people? If you value real estate, do you invest in real estate? This money is not everything concept is accurate, because money shows the value of what you value. And so we got to get our mind right, guys. We got to get our minds around the money mindset. And I can do that for you in one slide. I can show you all of the mindsets that it takes in order to start to get your finances right, so that you live in a place where your money is going where you value things. And so that's what this slide does. It takes all of these concepts and puts them on one slide for you. Now, I'm not going to have time to go through each and every one of these concepts in today's show. I just want to make sure that I give you a taste or an understanding of what this money mindset is, and maybe some of the things that you should be studying in order to get this money mindset correct in your life. And so let me pull this up a little larger for you. For those that are watching on the screen, watching on replay, and watching live, totally appreciate you bearing with me as I click through some of these different screen changes. All right, so abundance versus scarcity, abundance versus scarcity. And we're going to talk a little bit about this today. For you, while you're in the chat and we're starting to think this whole process through, and I'm walking you through all these different money mindsets, why don't you go ahead and type into the chat, what is scarcity? What is scarcity? We're going to talk about that in just a second. So the different money mindsets, you have abundance versus scarcity. Investment over expense, investment over expense. Money as a tool. Financial literacy. Values aligned spending. Long-term vision. Diversification. Mindfulness and gratitude. Self-worth versus net worth. Generosity and adaptability. These 11 different categories, if you're trying to get your money mindset right, these 11 different categories will tell you just about everything that you could possibly need to know to have the right money mindset when it comes to dealing with your money. And we're not going to go through all these today. In fact, this would be an entire course that I could put together in the future that would really help you and strengthen you. But what we can talk today about is a couple of different concepts. And the first one we're going to talk about today is scarcity versus abundance. And I asked you to throw into the chat, what is scarcity to you? What is scarcity? From my understanding, and I've only done a little bit of research on this, scarcity is a thought that there's only so much to go around. When I think about the word scarcity, there's a couple of things that come to mind. Number one, urgency, a little bit of shock. When I think about scarcity, I think of limitation. When I think about scarcity, I think of less. When I think about scarcity, I think of maybe in some way being hurt, maybe financially, if I don't do something about it right this second. When I think about scarcity, I think that there's only so much, and that things are limited. And so scarcity is a mindset. Scarcity keeps us from an abundant mindset. You can't hold two thoughts in your mind at the same time. I want you to take a second and try to think about a pink elephant. Just take a second and think about it, a pink elephant. Close your eyes and think about it. Do the exercise. If you're online, do the exercise. Think about a pink elephant. All right. Now think about a blue elephant. The only way To think about a blue elephant and a pink elephant at the same time is to think about two separate elephants. That's called being double-minded. Double-minded is not a money mindset. To have a money mindset, you have to be singular-minded and abundance-minded at the same time. Being able to live from abundance has a different meaning. What does abundance mean to you? Again, if you're watching online, you're watching on the replay, go ahead and type it into the chat. What does abundance mean to you? When you think about the word abundance, what are some words that come to mind when you think about the word abundance? I think about the word growth when I think about abundance. I think about the word overflowing when I think about abundance. I think about the word generosity and discipline. More than needed, Travis says online. Stress-free, action, the ability to take risks. I think about joy and happiness. I think about peace and relaxation when I think about abundance. Abundance is a different mindset. Remember, we talked about in our heart, that's where we're making our decision with our money. And so first, your conscious mind has to get wrapped around this concept of abundance. Some people, they live in this world right now where they live in a scarcity mindset. When you think about abundance, you're not holding on to things for yourself. You're very generous. You're very open when things are abundant. We start to become tight with our finances. We start to think that money is limited in our budgets when we get a scarce mindset about money. Now, can you live in abundance and be generous? Yes. Can I live in scarcity and be generous? So many people have this thought process of abundance that their ability to be generous is only going to come when it's from their abundance. And I would challenge you to ask you, where is your mind actually at? Is your generosity coming all the time? Is it habitual? Is it some part of who you are? Because when I think about the word abundance, I think about generosity. All right. Here's another good word that I associate with abundance, and maybe you do and maybe you don't. I guess let me ask you the question this way. Are feelings truth? Are feelings truth? I want to make sure that I get this concept of abundance down today. We're going to spend some more time. We're going to hang out here because I think it's extremely important that you understand abundance so that you can live a more abundant life and have the right mindset. So are feelings truth? You might say they're your truth, but they're not the truth because feelings can change. Remember how I told you can't hold two thoughts in the mind at the same time unless you separate those thoughts and then become double-minded? Well, you can't hold a feeling of scarcity in your mind and hold gratitude in the mind at the same time. You can't have fear in your mind and gratefulness at the same time. It's an impossibility. One of the things that we teach our daughter whenever something frustrates her, fears her, or bothers her is to stop, breathe, think about the things you're grateful for, and ask, what am I learning in this situation? Causes her to stop and breathe, think about the things she's grateful for, and then ask herself, what is she learning in this situation? Why? Because I can always have an abundance of gratitude. We can always find a way to have an abundance of gratitude. Here's the challenge. I can always find a way to have an abundance of fear too. Abundance is actually the truth in this situation. But we choose our feeling and our truth in that situation and how we're going to react. And so, if we're going to get our money right, we got to get our mind right. And that mindset of abundance starts with gratitude, it starts with the feeling, choosing in the moment gratefulness. A lot of people are struggled with this concept. And so that's why I'm taking so much time today to explain to you the difference between scarcity and abundance. It makes a major difference in our lives. Let me ask you, what does abundance value? What does abundance value? If gratefulness or gratitude is one of those items that you could perceive that abundance could value because it leads to more abundance in the thing that you want is gratitude, as opposed to fear leads you to this scarcity mindset, even though it's not true. What else does abundance value? One of the first things that I learned early on in my career was this concept of what I'm going to teach you right now called value goals. Value goals. And value goals runs off of a pyramid just like this. And at this corner over here of the value goals, there's 3 different phases of value goals. And on this corner over here, we have something called scope. Then we have costs. Then we have time. And then we have this thing called management. Scope, cost, time, and management. These are the only things when it comes to resources that we have dominion over. We're going to get our abundance from our decisions about SCOPE, scope. We're going to get our abundance from the things that we choose to focus on. And so scopes, these are the things that are the item and consideration, how detailed, how thorough, how complete, how much. These are scopes. Now, to control that scope, I can also control something called costs. And so as I'm working on some type of project in my life or some type of goal in my life, I can control the costs associated with this scope. If I spend less money on it, then I can get things done maybe a little bit quicker. But if I spend or a little longer, but if I or maybe a little cheaper, and maybe the value of that thing is a little bit cheaper from spending a little less money, but there's a cost associated with the work that needs to be done. And then there's this concept of time. Time takes into consideration that it's going to be consistent 24-hour in every single day, but how I use that time does matter. And so there's a resource of time. There's a resource in a decision that can be made around scope. There's a resource in choice that can be made around cost, what things cost. And then there's also this decision called management. Okay, bear with me if you're hanging in there online or replay. We're talking about scarcity versus abundance, and we're working through the concepts of moving from the feeling of gratitude or fear. And so we've had the concept or conversation around gratitude and fear, which one's real in an abundance mindset. Well, they're both real. Both can have abundance. So we know that abundance is true. And so we know that that's where the truth comes from. And so now we're looking at the concept of how do we manage this abundance into the things that we call value goals. And so the time and the management piece create this thing called time management. That's the way that we control this piece of the triangle. And the scope and the cost, this is really our ethical foundation. These are the things that make up our ethics, because what we're willing to do and what it's going to cost us in our choice, that creates this ethical foundation. Now, there's this whole piece in the center, cost and time, and this is our ability to control the things that we do, and these are our objectives. So we have our ethical foundation formed by our scopes and our costs. We have our objectives in our life formed by the things that are choices around cost and time. And we have time management formed around the concept of the things that we manage and time. And so in this rung right here, our ethical foundation and our objectives, they form our values. In our time management and our objectives, they form our goals. And so this concept of value goal helps me determine when I set goals around values, they come out of this whole concept of dominion over the resources so that I can achieve the things that I'm supposed to achieve in my lifetime. It's called a value goal. Now, this value goal is critical in understanding that that's where abundance comes from. Because this abundance is your ability to manage the growth of things. And so if you're wondering how to manage growth, if you're wondering how to achieve abundance, if you're wondering how to have the right feeling and the right thought, the foundation, the base of this pyramid is gratitude. The foundation, the base of this pyramid is your gratefulness. The foundation, the base of this pyramid is growth, gratitude, and management. Under your growth, your gratefulness, and your management, you can control the scope, the cost, the time, and the management of the resources that you have at your disposal. And that forms your ethical foundation, your objectives, and your time management skills and ability. And those time management skills and objectives create your goals, and your ethical foundation of your objectives create your values. And those values and goals formulate those things called value goals. And so I know that a lot of people are like, well, wait a minute. Doesn't it make sense to work top down? Yeah, it makes sense to work top down. It makes sense to start with the value goal, the thing that you want to achieve, along with the values that you have. Don't set goals that don't align with your values. And that helps you understand what you value and what those goals are. And in which case, you know, if you value something, you know what your ethical foundation is and your objective should be. And you also know from a goals perspective what your objective should be and how you should manage your time. People ask me all the time, Nathan, how do you get so much done in your life? And it starts with what I value. It starts with what I value. And then I ultimately determine from that ethical foundation and those objectives, what's the scope? What's this going to cost me? How much time do I have to do this in? And how do I manage these resources? So you can have a feeling, guys, and that feeling can be true to you, but it isn't truth. The truth is abundance. And in abundance, I can have fear and I can have gratitude. I can have an abundance of fear or an abundance of gratitude. But gratitude leads to more abundance. And so we know that the fear isn't real. I think one of the greatest things that you can do in your life, one of the things that will set you freer than anything else, is to chase the truth. Not your truth, not my truth, but the truth in every situation. And when you chase the truth, you begin to understand different things like what I just shared with you to understand scarcity versus abundance. So do you want to lead an abundant life? Do you have a money mindset? This concept of having a money mindset started with me a long time ago. And I started chasing success. And I will tell you this, you can either chase truth or you can chase success, but you can't chase both. And I was on the wrong thought process and the wrong mindset in order to achieve abundance. I was living in the wrong truth. See, before there was anything, there was truth. And so, if you're going to have an abundance of anything, might it be wise to start with the truth? And when you achieve the truth, then you can begin to prosper abundantly the way the truth would allow you to prosper. Because here's the problem: scarcity will put a facade, will put a fake barrier in your way from helping you to achieve the things that you want to achieve. So you get to choose which mindset you have. You can either choose scarcity or choose abundance. All right, guys. I hope that was helpful. I hope that an abundance versus scarcity, it really helps you to begin to shape your money mindset. And so let's talk about this next concept. How about investments over expenses? Investments over expenses. Now, if you've read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or you've taken any accounting courses, this situation might be a little bit counterintuitive from your normal thought process around money, because what you have learned about income, expenses, investments, assets, liabilities, there's some core concepts there, but I don't know that they're truth. One thing I do know that's a truth is expenditures, how you use those expenditures can be liabilities to you. What you put your money into can be hurting you. And so remember, I started off talking about this program today. I wanted to make sure that you understood the red flags before you started doing anything with your money mindset. And one of the red flags is this concept of expenses. I think some expenses can be a liability for you. I think that they can hurt you. They can keep you from the truth. They can keep you from the promise of achieving this abundant lifestyle. And to have the right money mindset, you have to understand that some of your expenses are really debts that are holding you back. They're liabilities. Investments is assets. Look, I consider you either have investments as assets or you have expenditures as liabilities. When you invest in certain things, these are assets that produce income and produce an abundance into your life. Maybe you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, Nathan, I understand the concept that things can cost me, and so they're debts and they hold me back. Yeah, but those things that you invest in, they can hold you back not just for today, they can hold you back tomorrow and the day after that. I challenge you to look at your finances right now through this lens. What are the debts that I have that are expenses that I need to get rid of? And what are the investments that I can make in assets for myself to grow myself, to get right in this money mindset? Where am I putting my money? Who am I investing into? What am I investing into? And why am I investing into these assets? It's either costing you or growing your abundance. And so every line item that Travis was talking about on that budget is so imperative that you look at, is this an investment or an expenditure? Is this an asset or a liability in my life? And then the last one, look, the wealthy mindset question. How will this purchase improve my life? How will this purchase improve my life? Everything you buy, you need to run through the filter. How will this purchase improve my life? If you want to get a money mindset and you want to live in abundance and you want your investments to begin to make you money and you get rid of these expenditures and liabilities that you have in your life, you have to run it through the filter. Will this mindset, this wealthy mindset, how will this purchase improve my life? You have to run it through the filter. How will this purchase improve my life? See, you have to understand your investments over your expenditures. You have to, if you're going to get your money right, if you're going to get your mindset right. Remember, I led this whole conversation about where your money is, that's where your heart lies. And so, this concept of investing in assets that help you Can you see how if you run it through the filter, how will this purchase improve my life? Begins to that filter of setting things into purchases, of setting things into your subconscious, that these are the things that I invest in that grow my abundance. Because we know abundance is truth. We know that scarcity is fake. And one more concept that we can talk about this. I said, how will this purchase improve my life? And some of you went, yeah, there it is, Nathan. There's the selfishness. And to you, I would say, if that's the concept that you had, I want you to think about what's more selfish, abundance or scarcity? See, I think one of the major mistakes that we make in our lifetime, guys, I think one of the things that holds us back ever is this false belief that if we do well, that somebody else has to suffer. Is that an abundance mindset or a scarcity mindset? So if I invest in myself, I invest in things that are going to improve my life, is that just for me or does that help others? It depends on if you started with this abundance versus scarcity mindset and what your approach is to your values and your goals. And so if you want to have this wealth kind of mindset, this money mindset that I'm talking about, it's so important that you understand that this question is not a selfish question. How will this purchase improve my life? It's okay to have a good life. That's truth. All right, like I told you, today we've gone over on time. We are 37 minutes into our programming today, and I have got multiple slides here that there's no way I'm going to get through each and every one of these slides today. But I did want to take some time before we finish up the show and talk about this, your next steps. So if you have a rental portfolio and you would like somebody with a money mindset to analyze your rental portfolio, I have a rental portfolio analysis on my website, nathanbushmba.com/store-1. That's nathanbushmba.com/store-1. And we'll be able to answer a lot of the questions like, would you like a full review of your rental portfolio to help you determine your next steps? We'll be able to review the profitability, the leverage, the liquidity ratios, and we'll be able to determine and put a plan of action into place for you guys so that you can make decisions around questions like, should I sell assets? Should I refinance? Should I add additional properties? Am I paying too much for this? We'll be able to look at that stuff and give you an answer to that. So if you're looking for an analysis of your rental portfolio, go to nathanbushmba.com/store-1. Before your portfolio analysis, though, it is important for you to answer the following questions. All right, number one, do you know the addresses of all of your properties? Seems so simple. I can't believe I'm even saying this, but I've had people come to me and ask me to analyze their portfolio. More than one, more than five have come to me and don't know the addresses of all of their properties. I can't help you if you don't know the addresses of all of your properties. All right. Number two, do I know the annual taxes, insurance, principal and interest costs, property management costs, HOA fees, maintenance expenses, etc.? Do I know what the things cost and going on in my property? I'm going to ask you some of these similar questions, and I got to have answers to that in the process of going through and analyzing your portfolio. Do I know my insurance deductible? I cannot believe how many people I've talked to over the last 3 months that don't even know their insurance deductible on their rental properties. Do I know when I bought my property, how much I paid for it, how much the all-in costs were for the property, meaning after renovations and total purchase price? Do I know what that is? How much could I sell my property for? What is my loan balance? Look, if you don't have all of these answers, that's okay. But you got to have most of these answers for me to be able to help you with your rental portfolio. And lastly, how many units do I have? I know it seems so basic, guys. If you're watching this and you're wondering, why is Nathan asked such basic questions to be able to analyze a rental portfolio? Because if you don't know this basic information, I can't give you the higher level information to help you make decisions. Again, do you have an abundance mindset or scarcity mindset? Do you look at things as investments or as expenditures? What are you investing in your real estate? This is the process that I'm going to work you through to help you understand what we should be investing in and what we shouldn't be investing in, as long as I understand your value and goals that you're trying to achieve. And I'm going to ask you, do your values align with mine? so I can make sure we're looking through the same lens and looking at the same filter. All right. So pay close attention to your money mindset. After this programming today, do you have a money mindset, or at least the start of a money mindset? If you do, go ahead and type it in the chat. Go ahead and type it in the comments today. Let everybody know about what changed in your mindset. Did anything change in your mindset? Is something new? Did you learn something different today? If you did, go ahead and share that in the comments today. It'll be helpful for everybody that watches this on replay. And who do you know that needs to hear this information? And would you like me to share even more of this information around money mindset? It seems to be that this concept of understanding wealth and mindset is at least a discussion that everybody's open to and would like to have. And so this is 2 shows now that we've done on this. But who else needs to hear this information? Is there an organization, a group, a club, something that you need me to come talk to? Is there a group of people that you have together, real estate investors that you'd like me to come talk to? Who do you know that needs to hear this information on the money mindset? I'd be happy to help them out. And so, in summary, I appreciate you taking the time to watch the show today. Share the show on YouTube, or like the show on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, share the show on Facebook. And make sure that you tag a friend, tag somebody in the comments of the show today that you think could get this information. That would be the action step to take. And in lieu of staying in line with all of the pop culture references that I have been using on the show, may this force be with you. Guys, have a good afternoon. Thanks.